welcome to the trade module and the NPTEL MOOC module in particular on strategic trade and protectionism. Here we are on our 37th lecture, week number 8, specifically confining our explanation, our discussion on purely on trade integration or economic integration, where countries strategize to integrate themselves in order to differentiate their trade, in order to tap the benefit in the international trade conflicts. So therefore, this carries one of the important, very important aspect of strategies or important strategies in the international discussion. And this is the caveat of our argument on trade protectionism. Here we are emphasizing on theory of customs union as one of the famous discussion on international trade trade agreements, where the member countries have been allowed to go for union among themselves. Now, what we wanted to, or what we used to discuss in this lecture are the following. We are going to discuss on different types of economic integration, static or dynamic, where we will be emphasizing on trade creation versus trade diversion. We will be also emphasizing on the second best theory, because the first best of having the best union is not possible. So, second best is important. We are also supposed to know the dynamic aspects of unionism. So, what do we mean by economic integration? As we already discussed, this refers to commercial policy of discriminatively, which is discriminately reducing the different kinds of barriers among the nations which are joining together. So, this basically refers to economic policies or the commercial policies that reducing the discrimination among the member countries. So, understanding the different types of blocks which are responsible for various forms of integration. We have already explored the differences of each of the types in the previous lecture, where one of the most important union is called customs union, where somewhere we said customs officials are required, or customs inspector at the entry is required, or in sometimes we are saying it is not required, especially in customs union case it is not required. And for free trade area, where differential charging different treatment to other countries, a different restriction to other countries, so therefore customs officials or the inspector is very essential. Now, as I have already said in the last class, I am repeating my sentence, probably somewhere I have written there that European Union has not yet been defined as economic union. That please correct that particular bullet point. I have already written there in the previous slide somewhere that from 93 onwards European Union is very much defined as economic union, and please correct the previous slide, previous lecture and slide where I have mentioned that it has not yet been defined, but actually it is the economic union. Now, since we already discussed, let us move on to define customs union in detail, where I have already said, repeatedly said, no need for customs inspector, and because of the fact that all the trade policies are actually treated common, they have harmonized trade policies across the rest of the world. And the famous examples till 1992 was of European Economic Community, European Union also, European Common Market till in 1997, especially during that time formed by these specific countries, but later on they are not defined as custom union, they are actually joined as different group called maybe common market. Let us come to the debate of theory of customs union. theory of customs union purely defined as a theory because of the fact that when we have countries attaching themselves for some possibility of groups or some possibility of integration, these countries are largely trying to define many avenues out of it, maybe in terms of cheap cost of production, maybe in terms of differentiated products, maybe in terms of other policy related strategies which help them conceptualizing their trade models differently. Now therefore, the theory of customs union is broadly divided into two categories. One is called trade creation, creating customs union, and the next slide we will be talking about trade diverting customs union. Look at here is a customs union. What do you mean by that? Very low or nearly negligible rates of restriction within the member countries, and outside world that have a similar rate which is generally higher than that of the within member countries restrictions. So, the customs union, while a member country joined that particular union, must have calculated certain advantages of joining to that group. While joining, the country will be expecting to derive lower cost of imports, and this actually creations also occurs when domestic production in a member nation is replaced by lower cost of imports from another member nation. So therefore, the country, once it is within the customs union, will get leverage and further credit is expected because of potential comparative advantage of the member countries. And so therefore, this leads to increased welfare to the member as nations specialize in a comparative advantage setup, and this leads to increased welfare for non-members as well due to real income spillover, which also increase imports for the rest of the world. So let us explain the context to identify the losses or surpluses or the gain or losses to the entities, to the consumers, producer surplus, consumer surplus as a part of theoretical explanation for trade creation strategies of customs union. Now here it goes like this, where we try to understand in a partial equilibrium setup where demand and supply is given. Now given the demand and supply, let us be the fact that the country concerned, let it be country is A, country A has not joined the country B, or has not been the part of country B, or not yet been with the customs union of country B. Now at before integration, PA is equal to, this is 1 plus T times PB, because within the customs union the tariffs is abolished or tariffs are negligible, and that too if the country is not part of the customs union, then for sure there is higher prices due to tariffs. Now what I wanted to say is the following. Here it goes like this. We say if the country A is joining country B and both the countries are part of the customs union. Now due to the country A being a member of the customs union, the tax is no more there, so tariff is no more there, so price will fall to PB by the extent of taxes. Now when price falls, as we all know, under the demand curve defined as, these are all areas under the demand curve, generally we define as the all possible consumer surplus, and above the supply curve we defined as, these are the area called producer surplus. Broadly, when price falls, producer surplus actually reduced to M, okay, whereas now consumer surplus actually increased by MNTR, So, consumer surplus actually increase where producer surplus is a negative component. So, this here we are saying minus M for the producer plus M for the consumers. So, therefore, this is nullified. Now, the left out is NTR, NTR. Now, out of it, what is again negative here? The gross revenue earned by the government, because government used to earn revenue by charging tariff. Now, since tariff is not there, this is negative for sure. Now, T is negative. Now, so what is left here? Only positive, N is positive, R is positive. So, minus T is cancelled out, T cancelled out, then cancelled out. So, what is left is N plus R. So, therefore, what we try to define in this set of is the following. So, the area here highlighted with the area or emphasized at N plus R is the net creation of net welfare gain. This is called welfare gain, net welfare gain to the member countries due to trade. Okay, so, therefore, this is called trade creation. Now, coming to the argument for the trade diversion, this occurs when lower cost imports from non-members are replaced by higher cost imports from members, just the reverse as compared to the discussion on trade creation, trade diversion, where trade creation we simply said that the member countries has a lower cost. So, therefore, lower cost is creating further trade. Now, if the member countries are tasked with higher cost of production, but by virtue we are part of the the customs union, we are not in a position to avoid our membership immediately. So, therefore, due to higher cost of production, we are bound to be attached again, and that will divert our trade. So, it has negative consequences due to the customs union. So, now so this itself says that trade diversion lowers welfare, as we said just now, since they shift resources actually away from their comparative advantage. Okay. Now, trade diverting customs union also result in trade creation because of the fact that change in welfare depends on the relative magnitude of trade creation and diversion. So, the customs union result in trade creation because some diverting members are actually creating space for other members to tap the benefits, and therefore, when it is so, it creates space for trade creation somewhere else. It depends upon the relative magnitude of creation and diversion. Let us examine it with the help of a model diagrammatically. Now, here let us there be the case that there are 3 countries, and the concern country here we are referring to in the partial equilibrium set of for country 2. Now, country 2 straightaway it is very clearly given here that before before joining the group, before joining the customs union, the rate is actually rate is actually 2. Now, let us think about, we have already discussed that. So, let us talk about trade diverted by country 2 from A and created with 3. There are 1, 2, 3 countries. Now, A, B, C accordingly we are mentioning. Country 2 charges tariff by S1 plus T in order to divert their membership from country 1. So, there are 1, 2, 3 countries. Now, here country 1 charges tariff of amount T or almost double the prices, the tariff is 100%, that increases the tariff to 2. This has resulted in higher prices, and this actually diverts the trade. So, diversion of trade is explained by M, J prime, H prime and N. and because of the actually extent of tariff created or the restriction created. So, those amount actually now restricted. These are only import as per the new tariff. So, what we wanted to clarify here, earlier at S1 the import was 10 to actually let it be 70, there are 60 units. Now, after tariff of 100%, it is restricted to only 10 to 50, that is 30. So, the 100% restrictions are made due to so tariff. So, how much it is? It is actually 30 units. So, what is the value exactly? This is 30 times 1. So, it is actually $30 as per this diagram, $30. The restriction probably we have explained in the next class, I mean in the next slide. Now, it is not here, I will explain it correctly. So, it is $30 is the trade diversion, and and this much is the revenue earned by the member country, I mean not member country, I mean the country 1 by charging higher tariff. Now, what we wanted to mention here, if the country 2 is concerned here, country 2 right now, I mean the country, same country is actually attaching their trade with country 3 or attaching their group to be claimed as a customs union with country 3 due to certain reasons or so. The country, the first country is actually deliberately imposing tariff on another country to divert their trade and joining a group without any tariff. Okay. Now, instead of imposing tariff, the country prefers to join with 3. So, where the price actually falls down due to non-tariff regime reduced to 1.5. Now, price is 1.5 due to no tariff at all. Now, let us examine very clearly from here. Had it, I mean basically at 2 they have clear trade diversion, I mean at 2 these portion, I mean these triangle, 2 triangles, now they are adding as extra value. I mean under this diagram, this is as we already explained, C prime, J, H and B, C prime, J, H and B prime are the area trade created. So, this is basically I mean total trapezium area C prime, J, H and B prime, out of which, since the country after joining the customs union not earning any revenue, the potential revenue the country used to earn is the area, the revenue used to earn is the area JM or AMJHN. Now, we are actually saying out of the total gain, that is CJHB prime, out of this trapezium area CJHB prime, J prime J, H and H prime, once again I am saying, or J prime H is the rectangular area where the country is not earning any revenue, I mean tariff revenue. So, country is actually giving off this tariff revenue, this is actually diverting their trade, I mean diverting their revenue, diverting their benefits. I mean the country could have earned, I mean after joining the custom union, it created the trade by C prime J H B head or B prime. Out of that, and basically this is the area, this is the area, out of that the blank portion as highlighted by the rectangular area J prime J H and H prime is the area government is actually foregoing or diverting their revenue. So, this is a minus component here. So, the net trade creation is actually C prime J prime, that is the triangle area, this is the one triangular area, and also another triangle area is of this one. This is called net trade creation made by the country due to their joining with a customs union. Now, so let us calculate the value based on these figures. How much the country has given up and how much the country has actually added due to cost joining the customs union. Now, the trade diversion is by the area as I said in this connection M, J, H and N. So, the net area, I mean out of that the net losses is M, J prime, H prime and N, which is the net loss, and this is called trade diversion. And trade creation, net trade creation is C prime J, which as we already highlighted in the two triangle. Let us calculate it. What is this all about? How much is the net trade diversion? Net trade diversion. Total trade diversion is M, J, H and N. You guys might be expecting numeric question on it. We will give two equations, simply one demand equation and supply equation. From there you are supposed to plot it in a diagram, and we will also label or give certain benchmark or label of tariff rates. You are supposed to find out trade diversion area and trade creation area. So, this is basically how much it is. From 1 to 1.5 it is only 0.5. So, 0.5 times this is the area 30. So, basically $15 is the loss due to trade diversion, whereas trade creation is of amount here. This is equal to half of what is that, half of this is a triangle area 15 to 20, that is 5 into from the vertical distance is 0.5 to 2, 0.5 to 2 is of 0.5, 1.5 to 2 it is of 0.5 plus half of another triangle. This this distance is of 50 to 60 is of 10 into vertical distance is of 0.5. So, half is common. What we have tried to understand here, this is basically 0.5 of 5 is equal to 2.5 plus 10 of 0.5 is of 5. So, basically 7.5, this is actually of half of 7.5, which is equal to $3.75. So, this is plus, but this is minus. Okay. Now, given this context, we have derived the fact that trade diversion amount is higher than that of the trade creation amount. Trade creation is of value with a positive sign of 3.75 as against trade creation, trade diversion. Trade diversion is of minus of $15. So, therefore, what trade creation, trade diversion, initially we say it diverted trade to another country by charging tariff, and now the country decided to join with another country, so the price falls. Now, we are trying to find out the net impact or the revenue, or we are trying to find out trade creation and trade diversion aspects. It certainly depends on the magnitude of change. Here we have marked equal changes between these two distance. So, the magnitude of change depends upon the elasticity of demand and supply, because this triangle area or the rectangle area actually dependent on the responsiveness of both of the area. Now, this is dependent upon their responsiveness, and responsiveness are explained by elasticity of demand as well as supply. Now, I am just giving you a context. If it is demand is, if it is elastic, then what is going to happen? If supply is elastic, then what is going to happen? Accordingly, I mean tariff we have already discussed earlier at the time of discussing tariff rates. So, let us come back to the discussion on the benefits, other benefits derived by the member countries while trade creation. As we already said, it has an economy of scale linkages, it will attract further investment due to larger markets, improve efficiency via competition from abroad, and also increase the negotiation power in WTO because they have bigger groups. So, member countries will vote for their own favor, and so it is very important. So far as trade diversion is concerned, it diverts investment and trade, and since cheapest sources are actually cut off due to joining another country or the member country. Similarly, it forgive tax revenue as we just mentioned, and loss of autonomy power because they have already in the group, and whatever the group decides they are supposed to follow. So, therefore, it reduces their autonomy power. There might be possibility of unequal distribution of benefits among member countries depending upon the elasticity of demand and supply they have, and dependence on a particular markets is important. It raises complex trade relationship and burden on the customs processes. And what are the benefits and costs to the non-members? Increase export opportunities because a larger group, and the rates are usually expected to be lower because of specialization. So, it raises higher demand. Prospects for higher global trade and testing ground for global trade disciplines also. There are some costs attached to it. Trade and investment diversion are there, potential frictions between trade blocks. It creates confused and complex trade relations, less commitment to WTO because they are not the member, not the member of the group, they do not have bargaining power. Now, what is left for discussion here as per our target for this lecture is of theory of second best. It says that if all conditions required to maximize welfare, here we have already discussed certain trade diversion and trade creation strategies to increase welfare. So, if it is not satisfied to or the total welfare has not been attained or the maximum is not attained, we will try our best to have a second best options, and that is is very essential for the country. What is the first best then? When all markets imperfections are removed, the economy will be in a Pareto optimality situation. Second best, when some of the market imperfections are removed through maybe through union or through less restrictions, the social welfare of the economy may or may not be improved, but at least it will be close to the optimality. For example, alcohol market is suffering from monopoly. It suffers from monopoly and externality problems, allowing competition which removes the inefficiency from the monopoly power and increases the external cost. FTA may face the second best problem, free trade areas. Because customs union is different than our FTA, so there will be some problems. So, what are the other static welfare effects due to custom union? It was once believed that any movement towards free trade would actually increase welfare. So, formation of custom union would actually necessarily result in better welfare for the members as well as non-members, as we already discussed. Now, in the works of Jacob Wiener, that the custom union could increase or actually reduce welfare depending upon the circumstances where it takes place, depending upon the strategy, expansion, the responsiveness. This was the work mentioned by Jacob Wiener in 1950. Similarly, these are the cases where this leads to increased welfare. We have already discussed, and let me point out a few. Higher pre-union trade barriers of the members, lower customs union trade barriers with non-members, greater number of nations forming custom union and larger their size, more competitive rather than complementary economies of member nations, closer geographical proximity to the member nation, etc. are very important. So, similarly, some other strategic effects of custom union are like administrative savings from elimination of custom officers, border patrols and others. As I already mentioned, customs inspectors are not required. So, this will also save. So, reduction in demand for imports from and supply of exports of rest of the world will likely to lead to improvement in collective terms of trade of member nations. So, collective terms of trades are expected to be improved because of their collective bargaining power. Now, the country after formation of group, they defined as a bigger group is a larger country. So, the larger country actually defined a better format. By acting as a single unit, customs union will likely have more bargaining power than member nations separately, as I mentioned. So, once again these are the way where customs union derive dynamic benefits in terms of competition, in terms of economy of scale, stimulus of investment, better utilization of community are there. Now, the last aspect of this particular lecture is on understanding India's present position of various forms of RTAs, where India stands. We will also discuss this in our next lecture on WTO. We will also decide where India has been attached. So, broadly there are 19 actually agreements India is attached with. So, I think like famous attachment I like ASEAN, and India is part of the negotiation to be a member, but not yet a full member. SEPA, Sri Lanka, India Sri Lanka Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, SICA similarly with Thailand. Similarly, other groups we will explore in detail in our WTO lecture. So, I think I need not spend time more on this. Broadly, we have discussed the trade creation and trade diversion effects of customs union. So, largely it is beneficial to be a member in the customs union, but however it attaches with limitations depending upon their elasticity of demand and supply. So, I think it is pretty clear to understand these arguments. We will carry forward the discussion regarding WTO in the next class. I think I should stop here. Thank you.